Most people are doing split squats wrong and they don't even realize it. Not because of a bad coaching cue or a foot position, but because they're skipping to the exercises their bodies are not ready for yet. The result: knee pain, back pain, compensatory strategies, and zero progress. Today I'm going to show you exactly how I progress the split squats with my athletes and clients, from the most basic variations all the way to the rear foot elevated or Bulgarian split squats. But more importantly, I'm going to talk about why each variation matters and how those variations stack onto each other in order to achieve our goal. Here's the core issue. Most people walk around and train with their center of gravity being pushed very far forward. Their weight is on their toes, their pelvis is turned outward, and they're basically falling forward with every movement they do. And because I talk so much about this forward center of gravity, I created a free 14-day email sequence where I send you one exercise each day in order to bring your center of gravity back. If you're interested, click the link in the description. When you put someone into a split squat with that pattern already in place, you're basically just feeding the compensatory strategies that they have to use because they essentially lost their capabilities to internally rotate at their pelvis, feet, and knees. That's why you see so many compensatory strategies during the split squats, like knees caving in, back rounding, hip hikes, feet doing all sorts of things, and eventually something starts to hurt. And the root cause is the inability to load through the heel. So let's talk walking just for a second. As we heel strike in our gait, the heel will internally rotate, and that internal rotation will get this tibia or the shin bone to internally rotate, and this internal rotation will travel up the system towards the knee and towards the pelvis. And that chain of events, that internal rotation coming up towards the pelvis, is what should happen during a well executed split squat. But now, with our center of gravity being so far pushed forward, we lose the ability for that internal rotation because everything is turning out, and that heel during a split squat is a missing link for so many people. And without that foot contact, the whole movement breaks down. So what do we do about it? We rebuild it bottom up. So let's talk split squat variations that I most often use and also how I progress them. The first variation that I most often use to teach someone how to load the heel properly, it's going to be a front foot elevated split squat. By elevating the front foot on a small box around 20 to 30 centimeters, we do something very specific. We shift the center of gravity backward towards the rear foot, and with it we shift weight back towards the front heel. This is important because as we lift the surface up, that leg has less weight on it, and the shin bone and the tibia is starting further back, so our nervous system can sense that heel properly and start to internally rotate. In this position, we're looking roughly at 70% of your weight is on your back foot and only 30 on your front foot. And that's intentional. We're not trying to maximally load the front leg. We're just trying to teach our system to sense the heel and keep the heel on the ground as we're going through a split squat motion. In terms of gait, this position mimics the early stance or an early propulsion where the foot is in front of the ankle, that shin bone is back, but is just starting to translate over the foot, so that heel has to stay internally rotated as that shin bone is translating over in order for that internal rotation to start from the ground up. This is the ultimate position for the body to accept load. If someone has knee pain, this is the position I will usually drill over and over again, because that's where the internal rotation starts that has to travel up to the knee for the knees to do what knees should. So because the goal of this variation is to keep our center of gravity back, the load position here is also crucial. I will usually use a load in front of my body's center of gravity because our bodies move away from the load. Placing a load in front of our bodies the body and our center of gravity will move backwards. So we're talking about goblet position or a front squat position to stay coherent with what we're trying to do in a lower body. Once someone has a good sense of their heel and can capture the heel and keep it as that tibia is translating over, we can start gradually lowering the box until we get into a traditional split squat position where both of our feet are flat on the ground. Now the weight distribution shifts. The studies show that the front leg will take about 55% of the load or more, and the rear leg will take about 45% or less. So as you can see, the front leg starts taking more load. That's why the variation prior to this one is crucial for the system to start internally rotating, because to add more load onto the system, we will need more internal rotation. This is important because in a traditional split squat with both feet on the ground, the tibia or the shin bone will start behind the heel, but as we lower down towards the bottom of the split squat, the knee might end up slightly further forward from the ankle. But what's crucial here is that the heel stays heavy and that we weight bear through the heel. Also, the foot cues are crucial here because we want our inner heel heavy and base of the big toe heavy at the same time. The traditional pronation of the foot will happen to a greatest degree in the bottom of the split squat. And when someone can do a well executed split squat with both feet on the ground, with that knee translating over, heel staying heavy, we know they have a good internal rotation capabilities in their foot, knee, hip, and pelvis. Because all of those things have to move properly in order to get to the bottom and push back to the starting position during a split squat. So the same rules apply here for the load placement. If someone is still getting pushed onto the forefoot in this traditional split squat position, we can still use loads like goblet position or loads in front of our body, which will help them to stay heel heavy as they're going through movements. And once they have that control, we can start using load placements that are slightly underneath our center of mass, closer to the ground, like 2 kettlebell suitcase carry or ER and IR kettlebell that helps us to get more internal rotation on that lead leg. In gait terms, this is gonna be our mid stance position where we are on top of that leg, pushing the most force down into the ground through our heel and the base of the big toe. Now we've arrived to a split squat variation that everyone wants to jump in immediately, and that is going to be a rear foot elevated position or a Bulgarian split squat variation. And it's a great exercise, but only once you've earned it. By elevating the back foot, we deliberately shift the weight towards the front foot, so we're probably looking at 80% of our weight is bearing through the front foot and 15 to 20 on our back. The lead leg is doing the majority of the work, and everything in this exercise is trying to shove you onto your toes. This variation is essentially a test of whether you can hold onto heel contact under pressure. With your center of gravity this far forward and your back leg elevated, your body will fight hard to dump onto the forefoot. If you can resist that, if you can drive down through the heel, stay loaded on the inner foot, and maintain that internal rotation, you're building something really important. For athletes, especially those in field sports that push off their toes constantly, this variation is huge for injury prevention. Let me explain that a little bit more. The ability to hold onto that heel contact just a split second longer before you start pushing into the ground through the forefoot will create the space on the back of the pelvis and hold on to the internally rotated position of the pelvis that can be crucial in order to prevent injuries like proximal hamstring strains, but also those calf strains. Now, load positioning matters a lot here too. If you want to dial back the forward challenge, use the front load again like the goblet position. But if you want to push your athletes towards the game day demands, Suitcase loads, or even barbell back squat position will reinforce that forward challenge and really test their ability to hold onto the heel. So let's zoom out and look at what we've actually built here. Phase 1, front foot elevated. Center of gravity back, heel loading, early stance or propulsion, rebuilding internal rotation from the ground up. Phase 2, both feet flat. Center of gravity is staying back, tibia translates over the foot, mid-stance internal rotation, maximum ground force through the inner heel. Phase 3, rear foot elevated or Bulgarian position. Center of gravity that's trying to get ahead, heel integrity under pressure, late stance, pushing into the ground and away from the leg. Each phase corresponds to the phase of a gait cycle. Each one builds the capacities that the next one demands. Skip one and you're loading positions that your body might not be ready for just yet. That's why the Bulgarian split squat breaks so many people. Not because it's a bad exercise, but just because they don't have the capabilities that we just talked about to do it properly. So if you've been struggling with your split squat or been having a knee or back pain, this variation and this progression is where I would start and slowly build through the variations I just showed. If you want a fully structured program that takes all of this and more and rebuilds the capacities that we talked about from the foot up to the pelvis, I created a Beyond Knee program, which is a 24-week, 6-phase structured program that takes you through all of the activities, daily resets, but also self-mobilizations to start rebuilding those rotational capabilities from the ground up. If you're interested, check the link in the description. And because a split squat has a lot to do with what's going on at our feet, I think you'll like this video right here where I break down shoe selection for different feet representations.